brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
Well, this embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
What's up, Panther fans? Boy, Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. We got a good show tonight, an interesting one. One thing that I never thought I'd say, but Thomas Davis popped. Tonight's show, Thomas Davis popped, Buyers, Teppering out, and DBs. It's episode 18.10. We'll be talking about the Thomas Davis suspension, 4 games for performance-enhancing drugs, PED, according to the league, and we'll hear from him on that. He came out with a message on Twitter and all of that, and we also will be looking at, we'll be peeking at some defensive backs heading into the draft, and I'll be doing that with my buddies, my pals, Joe Riolano and Mel Mayock. Joe, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Tony. I am so glad it's a Tuesday night and we get to talk about the Carolina Panthers. Nothing makes me happier.
Mel Mayock, my man, again. What? Tuesday night is crazy.
Yes, sir, man. We're on a roll. What's it, like 5 weeks in a row?
You got your party. It's so important to you. You're so excited. You got beads on.
Hey,
like
man,
a C3 Mardi Gras for you.
It's just a C3 party in the house, man.
It's like Easter Sunday is the draft. Teams will be resurrected. Nah, I'm not even going to try to continue with that analogy. Anyway, we got plenty to talk about tonight. Let's everybody that you're watching, we appreciate it. All the people in the chat room, you guys are the best. I looked at some of the YouTube stats, and while we don't get a ton of views and necessarily have the largest audience, I gotta tell you, one of the things that we got is an interactive audience that sticks and stays to the end. Our watch minutes are great for how many subscribers we got. And we had something like 5,000 chat comments or something. It was 2,000 chat comments in our last 4 videos. Now, that's the live chat going through the room. But these guys, they bring it each and every week. Fantastic contribution. Slim J, all the dudes. We can keep going down the list with all of you guys. Cody Lashney, Legacy Lines Lynn, Carlton, J-Dub, Kevin Ketchy. Welcome. You guys make this show fantastic. And while you're here, go ahead and slam that thumbs up button. Up. They said, turn up my mic. Thank you very much. Slam that thumbs up button for us. And hit the subscribe, and as my son says, make sure you click that little notification bell, because that is important. We've been getting some YouTube subscribers, and that's because you guys have supported us, and you can continue to support us by sharing this show with just one friend. Pick one Panther fan that you know likes to talk and keep up with the Panthers, and share the link to this broadcast. I guarantee you that will add a subscriber.
We are 160 subscribers, 140 subscribers away from our goal before draft night. So if everybody out there shares with a friend, gets them to hit the subscribe button, that makes us more relevant on YouTube, which means we get to more places, bigger audience will keep growing. So
that's right.
Help us out.
Thank you. All right, guys, let's jump into this. Thomas Davis popped. Your thoughts. That's all I'm giving you is this. Your thoughts on Thomas. Actually, no. Before you give your thoughts, let's hear from Thomas Davis. This is what Thomas Davis had to say. He posted this message after receiving news that he would be suspended for 4 games at the beginning of the 2018 season for violating the league's substance abuse policy. And here's what he had to say about it.
So I just want to take a few minutes today to share some news with you guys that I received from the NFL. I was informed that I tested positive for a banned substance. I was completely caught off guard by this. I've never in any way done anything to try to intentionally cheat the game. It's one of those situations where the NFL rules are clear. They state that you are responsible as a player for what you put in your body. I've taken the same supplements for the last 7 or 8 years and never had any issues. Been tested numerous of times over the years while taking the same stuff, and you know, unfortunately, this is some of the things that happen when you take supplements. I've never tested positive for a steroid or HGH. Is not one of those situations. It ended up being a estrogen blocker that triggered a positive test for me. I just want you guys to know that in no way would I ever do anything, like I said, to cheat this game or to try to create a competitive advantage over anybody. I've always tried to do things the right way, and that's something that I will continue to do when I'm able to get back on the field. I can honestly tell you guys that my conscience is clear in this situation. And as bad as it hurts me to sit here and tell you guys this, I know it's going to hurt a lot of people that have looked up and believed in Thomas Davis over the years. Just know, in no way have I done anything intentionally to try to cheat this game. I'm going to serve this 4-game suspension, and you know, I'll be back ready to go back out there with my teammates, and you know, who knows, maybe this isn't my last year.
Boom.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty.
stop.
You shouldn't do that.
Stop.
And how did that?
All right. Okay, your thoughts. I'll turn it over to you guys.
You want to go first, Joe?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at this. When I saw it, I was absolutely floored. I could not believe what I was reading. You know, this guy has, aside from a few on-field questionable hits, has always been the picture of a perfect football player. Gives all, team captain, man of the year, just everything you could possibly want in an NFL player, Thomas Davis epitomized. Well, when I saw this, I was just like, you know, wow. It's true. I like to think that they had a B sample of his test that they ran through as well, and I assume it came back positive, so they went ahead with the suspension. If Thomas Davis says he didn't do it, I believe him. He's never done anything to make me question his word, and he said he didn't do this. I am going to say this. I did look up estrogen blocker and how it can enhance athletic performance, and it just reduces the amount of estrogen in the male body, and that allows for more testosterone. But one thing I did see, a side effect of this, was your bones tend to be a bit more brittle. And who remembers the injury that Thomas Davis played in the Super Bowl with?
Yeah, the arm injury.
Broken arm, yeah.
Huh.
So, I'm not in any way insinuating that he's lying to us. I'm not, because I don't know the man. He's never shown anything to me to indicate he's a liar. So I do take him at his word, but I just found it sort of, for lack of a better word, interesting that a side effect is, your bones tend to be a bit more brittle. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's a great point. But he did also say, Joe, he said he's been taking that same supplement for like 7 years.
Right.
So he's not denying that he's taken this for a long time.
Right.
So
I agree.
So that could be a possibility. But the real question is, and I do take Thomas Davis at his word. He's done so much for so many that he's got no reason to have to lie. He could have just played the fifth and just said, hey, kind of like Charles Johnson did. But but the real question is, why would one test for one substance show one result be different for the past 7 years and then not now? Maybe it's one of those borderline things where your levels can be at a certain thing, and he's been hovering right at that certain level. And
I think that's exactly what it is, Mel. I bet you hit the nail right on the head. It's just a level issue, and his level was too high this time.
Yep.
You're right.
All right, so the first thing is, even if Thomas Davis did this willingly, it does very little to nothing, if anything, to change my opinion about him as a football player, his legacy as a football player. It seems the way he's describing it is this could fall into one of those categories that it doesn't sound like it had anything to do with like super pumping PEDs, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's been on a program of PED pumping for the last 8 months. Now, I have seen that people do commonly take estrogen blockers when using steroids. Mm-hmm. So it's not like this does fall into, it does lead you into a dangerous path of like what could be. Now, I'm also guessing there are natural estrogen blockers, like if you drank enough green tea or ginseng or something, you know what I'm saying? Like pomegranate. Okay. So, you could be, the supplements could have kind of the high elements that maybe do something similar. Right. But the one question I do have is that if this was a supplement that you've been taking for 7 or 8 years and you haven't changed anything, you're not appealing it. So I've heard one report, he's not appealing it. And then also, like, I feel like I would be like, I've been taking this product right here with this label. And I've been doing that for 7 years. I got a tainted pill. I got something, like Cody Lashney said, this was made in Mexico, whatever it was. But a few people ever reference the actual product. And I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say this is the specific product, right, that I use. But like, if you do think it was because you had Theraflu, and you remember when dudes got jacked for like Theraflu back in the day because it had ephedrine in it or something like that. I feel like I just took Theraflu, bro. You didn't hear that. So why didn't he call out that? I mean, does he have some sort of relationship with the company that makes this product? That's a question I would be interested in knowing if I really cared about this any more than we're going to be talking about at night. Or is this one of those things that you're saying that in a way that you don't want to mention those specifics because like that company is going to come out and say, nope, that ain't in our products. Right. So I don't know, is that I do believe that all players, let's just act like this. Anybody that acts like this is like really a big deal and that we should talk about it beyond today in this moment. The only reason we're talking about it is because it's the latest news of the Panthers right now. Is that y'all are fronting because we all think they're doing crap. And we can debate over the line of what is ethical, unethical, what is a real performance enhancing drug, what is like a fancy supplement or a ginseng tablet or whatever people take at GNC. Or let's not act like all of a sudden this really matters to us all that much, because nobody cares when they go into the tent and they get a performance enhancing ankle shot. Right? When you twist your ankle and you numb it, that's performance enhancing. Like you couldn't perform the way. So this sounds I don't got my panties all in a twist over it.
Now that might be the biggest news of the night there.
What? That I don't got my panties on?
Oops.
Whoops. Nah. Is that really? Does anybody really seriously want to go into a conversation about? I can't even believe people say that this has anything to do with his legacy.
That was such a clickbait article put out by the Observer.
Is that so? The Observer? Oh, that was. I didn't even realize that. They are. That there was that. Was it Scott Fowler or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, that was almost as bad as the clickbait article about Cam Newton escaping the jaws of death from another horrific car accident.
Oh God, that was
we'll talk about that. You guys got anything else? What other discussions should this bring up? Oh, I do think here I got something for you. Is that this does, and I think I got an image for you. This also, I had a picture of TD. This is a bad thing. I have this picture of TD. Guys on the show can't see it. I grabbed a screen grab of his Twitter apology video, and he did it in black and white, and it's just like a profile, like a front profile, not a profile, but like a face. It looks like a mugshot, dude. I didn't even want to put it up. I'm glad. Actually, I didn't mean to put it up at all. But I did want to say that Thomas, talking about Shaq Thompson, right, is that Shaq Thompson now gets an opportunity. At least now they're acting like it is one or something like this. Is that we've been waiting to see Shaq Thompson in a starting role. He gets it right now. Here is finally the image I was talking about. You guys are like watching me work on my computer. Guys, Shaq Thompson, first round draft pick 4 years ago, I believe, going to is this his fourth year or is he going into his fifth year? We haven't gotten an option on him yet, right? We did?
I think
we did pick up his fifth year option, didn't we?
We did.
Okay. So when was he drafted? He was drafted in 2015. So he played 2015, 2016, 2017. He's going into his fourth year.
All I remember is he was drafted right before Landon Collins.
Shaq Thompson is getting his opportunity, and this is what the Panthers tweeted. The path has been momentarily cleared for Shaq Thompson. I saw Carl D in the chat room mention that he was ready. He was ready to see this, that he wasn't all that upset because he was ready to see Shaq Thompson in a strong role. Oh, hold on one second. Is Lynn says that I disagree with you, Tony. It was an attempt to create a serious journalistic story. Is that in reference to the Charlotte Observer story? In a, like maybe just an honest question about what Thomas Davis's legacy now is because of this final moment? I just tend to think that it's just an not overblown, but to me, like
I think it's overblown. I mean,
it's not a big enough deal to taint his entire.
Is Julius Peppers tainted?
Right.
There is something to do about there is something about that becoming at the beginning or the end, like recency bias, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and that is that Julius Peppers crap happened 14 years ago.
Right. But again, I think this is something that people will forget. He'll come back.
6 games into the season, nobody will even remember.
Right, he'll have an all-pro season, and people
Let's just hope it doesn't hurt the team.
But, I mean, let's be honest. This is a young man's game. Thomas Davis is not a young man anymore, and
hence the supplements.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Like, as in, that's, I mean, why do you think these, why are we, like, needing a little workout juice or, you know, or whatever these, whatever supplements, they probably are more important to you when you're 35 than they are when you're 24.
25.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I meant.
No, and I don't think he did this intentionally, thinking, okay, maybe I can get away with it. I don't think that was his thought process. I just think in the past, when they tested him, he was probably far enough away time-wise to where his levels had come down. And this time when they tested him, he was, you know, they called him when his levels were a bit elevated.
Yeah. All right, so talking about Shaq Thompson and a young man's game, this is his opportunity to step in and potentially replace Thomas Davis as a starter or take over more. Now, the point is that Shaq has, a lot of people are talking about this in the discussion in the YouTube chat, is that Shaq Thompson has had a notable amount of reps. Like, the team has found ways to put him on the field more than you would think. More than they would if that was a 3rd round pick, right? Is that they have forced defensive formations a little bit towards 3 linebacker sets because their 3 linebackers are better than all their corners. So it's understandable why they did that, but I don't know if the 3 linebacker set is ideal in this NFL. And that I do believe that it's kind of just one of those tough things, is you thought TD was going to slow down faster than he did. Shaq Thompson was going to step right into that role, and it just didn't happen as fast as you want. So you had a duplication of guys, and they were both staying healthy for the most part. But I almost feel like the Shaq Thompson pick, if you were trying to put Shaq Thompson out there in a 3-man set, was built for an NFL that was like 10 years ago when they were running a lot of 2 tight end sets and things like that, is that when they're spreading them out a little bit more with the faster, shiftier receivers trying to get, it's tough for a linebacker to keep up. So we could see Shaq Thompson in a more natural role as or more naturally suited to his skill set. Now, if Shaq Thompson plays lights out, guys, Thomas Davis comes out back at suspension, off of suspension, what do?
Rotate.
Rotate. All right.
I've always been a proponent of, you can't lose your starting job to an injury. But if you get suspended and someone comes in and crushes it, I might have to think about keeping the guy who's excelling in as the starter, because, you know, you did something to yourself that was in your control. You understand the difference?
Well, what about this? What if they just look better? You know, I mean, is that you're not really losing your job because of an injury or even a suspension. You're losing your job because they are playing at a higher level. And I think we saw that Thomas Davis, I don't like to say lost a step. We say that really casually at times. But I felt like his play last year was not as good as it was the year before. Now, there could be all these other factors. You know, you could have that the defense just altogether wasn't as good, that the defensive front, or that we weren't calling the right defensive schemes necessarily for to suit these guys best. But I don't think that anybody argued that his play improved last year.
Who?
Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis. Like, I mean, I feel like we've seen the height of Thomas Davis at this point.
Yes.
Right?
Right. I think his best days are behind him.
Yeah, I mean, he's declining. I don't know how rapid it is or anything, but I felt like last year was, unless it was just all system driven, right? So now if Shaq comes in and plays just like a man on fire, where he's making Luke Kuechly look better, where he is just being a game changer, you know, that's going to be a tough question of how the Panthers reacclimate. But Mel, tell them how to do it.
Rotate.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think they have to do that no matter what. I think that's only smart.
Has anybody heard anything about David Mayo? Is he, like, I feel like we were so all talking about him just a year ago. I don't remember anything about him now.
Well, he backs up Luke, right? So he's the man in the middle. He's what A.J. Klein was before.
I haven't even heard his name. All right, update on owners. Tepper, the New York Times reported that it was down to two.
Getting close.
2 owners, but then the Charlotte Observer, and I think her name is Katie Peralta. I'm not 100% sure. Does that sound right, Mel?
You lost me there, buddy.
They put out a story that it was that Tepper is not out, but she put out a story that said that Tepper called them and said that he's not out. Nobody knows what entirely out. Nobody knows what tomorrow brings. So I did get to drop the fake news hashtag on the New York Times, but I know Joe got a kick out of that. Like, we do have to admit that the New York Times is the most reputable and, like, it is the best news paper. Whether you like what they say or not, like, they got the best writers, they got the best, you know what I mean? But they jumped the gun on this, maybe. Or would you do this if you had to bet, Joe, that somebody gave you fake news, the Charlotte Observer, sports reporters, or the New York Times? Where would you put your money? Interesting conversation. I want to hear your thoughts in the chat room, folks. NYT or TCO? Which one would you bet is the fake news? Mel, what do you think? Is Tepper in or out?
Well, you know, he may be playing poker. He may have put it out there purposely to have the New York Times say he's backing out, and then cause a little bit of panic, a little bit of, you know, whatever his motivations are, and then, you know, the Charlotte Observer picks up the other side of it. So both of them may be telling the truth, just from different angles at different points in time.
Okay, Joe. Well, so which one, Mel? Who would you bet the fake news tag on?
Well, I'm going to say the Charlotte reporters are closer to the story, so I'm going with the hometown team, baby. Screw them Yankees. I'm just playing.
Joe, we know what. Hit them up, Joe.
Sorry for all you Northerners out there.
I think the fake news will come from the New York Times.
I just like that one GIF of Donald.
Fake news just to get, you know, circulation up. And speaking of Yankees, the Yankees are getting crushed by the Red Sox. It's 14-1 in the 6th inning.
That's ugly. I just like that Donald Trump GIF where he goes, "You are fake news." I just like watching it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the cat calls. See where this conversation goes with the greatest fans. You can jump in the cat calls yourself using the phone number and leaving a voicemail. The phone number is 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Go ahead and plug it in your phone. Give us a call. We got people that calling us in traffic, calling us when they can't sleep at night, and you need to get on that list. So let's jump into these.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in the snow? Who's that kid that can use one?
C3 Podcast, YouTube chat room. It's your boy J-Dub. I had a question, and it's more of an opinion thing, but who do you think will be our number one corner between Cockrell and Bradbury? Because Cockrell actually graded out as the 39th best by Pro Football Focus, and Bradbury was 109, and that's what the corners in the league with at least 88 snaps. That's a big difference, like 70 grade difference. Is this more of a like left side and right side ordeal, or is Cockrell going to be our number one, or Bradbury going to be straight up our number one? That was just my question. Thanks as always. Keep pounding.
All right, my thoughts on this is that James Bradbury's numbers are going to probably be lower and pushed down lower just simply by the nature of the secondary and what he probably was asked to do as a second-year player. I feel like it's not necessarily it's not an unfair comparison or an unfair question. I'm not saying that, but it seems that maybe they're just two different situations, and we won't be able to know until we just see how these guys are playing. You know, Cockrell's been in the league a little bit longer than James Bradbury, but also was probably playing in a different setting with the Giants teams or with the Giants. Now, he is known as a smart player. He is a guy that has a lot of potential. I think what this is, the fact that we get to ask this question, guys, is Ross Cockrell or James Bradbury the number one corner, and it not be a ridiculous question, right? Is that if you asked that and it was ridiculous, it'd be one thing, but this is not a ridiculous question. It's legitimate. That really speaks to maybe how good of a signing this secretly was, and we hope it to be. Joe, what do you think? Is Bradbury, or is this, to me, says maybe that there's a little suspicion about Bradbury? How do you feel about the guys? Played relatively well, asked a lot of him.
Well, he was thrown right to the wolves as a rookie, so he's had to digest a lot of information as a rookie. You know, he really, talk about being force-fed. That's what happened to him. And I think, considering that, he's done well for himself. Of course we would have liked him to perform better, but what we've asked him to do, I think he's done an admirable job of learning on the fly.
He has learned on the fly. He has been a little fortunate at times. I'm going to give him that. And this is probably where some of those bad grades or some of this grading comes. He's gotten beat a couple of times, and I remember seeing him and being like, yeah, and he got away with it. And you were like, woo. Yeah. So, like, I could see how that is an interesting question, is a good point. The scary part of the question is that if Ross Cockrell is that, if it's that close, maybe that says something to James Bradbury as a pick. We're going to turn over to Mel Mayock. The question was, James Bradbury, is he really going to be able to hold or be a number one corner spot, or is this, maybe we shouldn't even look at it like that. Maybe we should just look at these guys are kind of equals, just on different sides of the field.
Well, yeah, considering the Panthers don't take their cornerback and mirror the number one wide receiver, I don't think you can call one of them the number one cornerback because they play equal sides of the field. They don't follow Julio Jones across a set.
I ain't following them. You following them? Nope.
No, that'll get fired. Just ask
Ben Wickery. That's
right. Exactly. But I do think Bradbury is a player on the rise. I think Ross Cockrell is a great signing, but Panthers aren't done. They're going to draft a cornerback here probably very early, if not at 24. In the NFL draft, so I don't think you can have enough good corners.
We're going to talk about them tonight. Good question. Thanks for calling, J-Dub.
Hey guys, this is John G. Love the podcast. Thank you so much.
We love
Every
you,
week,
John
all
G.
year long. Keep pounding. Hey, listen, I've been thinking. We've talked about running backs, talked about Chubb. You know, the one to go get is Saquon Barkley. That's the number one pick.
Whew.
So what would you give up to get the number one pick? That's the question.
Would you go Mike
Let me
Dick
throw out
on
a
him?
couple of crazy ideas. Would you trade Luke Kuechly for the number one pick straight up?
No.
Figure he's got a couple more years, one more concussion. Is it worth the chance
Mm.
for a generational back?
That's a mean question. That's like the
I
mean.
wouldn't do that. Some might. How about packaging up Shaq and your first round pick, 24? Shaq Thompson and the 24th pick for the first pick of the draft.
Done.
Absolutely.
Maybe throw in an extra third rounder. With
Done.
it.
Sold. Sold.
Plus a keg of beer.
What else would you do for the first round pick? Could you imagine Saquon Barkley in the same backfield with Cam Newton? What would it be worth to you?
And Christian McCaffrey.
Thanks, guys.
I'm not trading Luke. Sorry.
All right. Now, when you hear that, now is that only because you just love Luke so much?
No, it's because without him, our defense is 5 pegs lower. When he's not out there, that team is not the same at all. So,
that would be like selling your soul to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I do think that he did. You know, when you frame it like with the concussions, that it is. You know, you are kind of there's a risk with Luke Kuechly.
Well, to me, there's just 2 untouchables on this team right now. Other than that, I would trade anybody and any pick.
Cam and Luke.
Yeah.
There are 2 untouchables. I will trade Jerry Richardson, a box of nabs, and some slim bootcut jeans for anybody. That's funny that it was that easy for you. You said, I will trade anybody on this team except for 2. Yeah. What about KK, man?
Ooh, that would be as close to a third as possible. I love KK. But
I just think this. I think that moving into a range, the real question is moving up that helpful in this case? And I don't think that it helps enough, even with Saquon Barkley, to do like whatever it would take.
It's crazy to say, but I would go Mike Ditka on this. And I know people will call me crazy, but I would do like Mike Ditka did for Ricky Waters. Or Ricky Waters.
I think I would go get a very uber talented receiver. I think right now that would benefit Cam more than Saquon Barkley.
Like having Odell.
I'm not saying Barkley's not any good, and no way am I saying that.
Speaking of which, Calvin Ridley coming to Charlotte tomorrow.
Yeah,
I am not on the Calvin Ridley train. I know you guys are.
You got a right to be wrong, brother. He is the best wide receiver in the draft.
I would be so for this guy if he was 6'1". I would be like banging my fist trying to get.
Every time I've seen him play, like nobody's touching him, and it ain't because he's just dusting them. Like these guys just let him run right by. So
he does run sub 4.4, and he is just perfect routes. He's seamless in and out.
Put your hands on him. Put your hands on him. Put your hands on him. All right. Let's keep going.
All right, guys. Chicago Kid here. I thought I would chime in as here in the last podcast. I always talk about how I'm coming in from the suburbs, stuck in traffic, that kind of thing. It's because I am an investment banker for a 150-year-old investment firm. So give you an idea how much money you can make as an investment banker. I do live in Chicago, not a cheap city, and I drive a brand new Hyundai Elantra.
Brand new.
What you get when you have the big bucks. No, but anyway, yeah. Whole thing with investment bankers, I could care less who's buying the team, other than I want them to care about the team. I prefer that they come from around the area, but I just want them to care about the team and care about what's on the field. Outside of that, I did have a question for you guys. So, a terrifying thought for me is if, hypothetically, the Panthers did move. I've never had to worry about that. Panthers have always been my team. Atlanta Braves have always been my team. I've always been a Clemson fan. Obviously, I haven't had to worry about that. But how would you guys react if one of your teams moved? I'd just like your opinion. Otherwise, keep pounding and watch out for those Tide Pod eating teenagers.
It has happened to me.
First, the investment banker thing, that's awesome. A, that you are an investment banker, and B, I'm very disappointed you're not buying the Panthers team. I think you would make a great owner.
Oh, by the way, Tony, in a previous lifetime, I was a mergers and acquisition analyst for a firm. Yeah.
Should have stuck with that, bro. We could have been Mel's got good seats, but they could be great.
Dude, I went so broke doing that job.
All right.
Only the top of the top really do really well.
To the point, let's hear, Mel, you've had a team move on you.
I have. And I tell you, I was so...
Who are they?
Well, the Hornets, obviously, dude. I mean, I was so freaking passionate about the Hornets. I lost my passion. I lost my passion for them. And I learned to hate the city of New Orleans. And hate George Shinn.
Well, that's not really that hard when the Saints play there.
Yeah, but you know that a part of your fandom wants to say I would follow this team, but I wouldn't.
Nope.
I wouldn't. They leave, they dead to me.
Yeah, Joe, how you feel if a team of yours moved?
Well, first of all, let me say the Chicago kid. Dude, if you're an investment banker and you're rolling like that, you need to up your card game, brother.
I think he was joking about rolling in it, about rolling in the dough.
Oh.
Chicago's expensive.
I won't argue that. I had a team move. I was a Hornets fan, and they left. So that was, talk about taking the wind out of your sails.
Did you continue to watch basketball?
I did. I did. But, you know, if the Panthers were to leave, that's a whole nother level of sadness. And
I would be crushed.
Yeah.
I would need professional help.
Yes, I agree.
I would quit watching football.
I think so.
I mean, I might watch a football game. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like I never watch a football game, but Lynn says, hey, if I can be a diehard Panthers fan from Cali. All right, so I think one of the things that is interesting is how you choose a sports team, right? Is how you develop an affinity from the team probably has something to do a lot with answering that question. So
yeah, if you did not live in Charlotte or the area and you just like the team because of who they are and the players on the team, yeah, you're not gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater if they move, so to speak. But if you fell in love with that team because it bolsters your city and it's your civic pride, that you've just been a part of this team, the ups and downs and the community development that goes along with it, and then they up and pull the roots up and leave, different story.
I think
I don't even want to think about it though.
Yeah, but the one thing that's interesting to me is because I'm a relatively new football fan. Like, I'm the youngest of all of y'all, and out of us three, but I'm really also young just because I didn't start watching football till a little bit later in life, right? It wasn't a sport that I grew up watching. Like, I was a baseball fan as a kid, and a hockey fan, and I got into sports, and I guess before the Panthers existed, and people still that know me from my childhood, I always pick my teams based on a New York team because I have family that lives in New York. And if there wasn't a team nearby, like, I had no rooting interest in the Redskins, I had no rooting interest in anybody, so I proclaimed to be a Giants fan. But when Julius Peppers left UNC Chapel Hill, I was a huge Julius Peppers fan. I was like, I'm going to root wherever he goes a little bit.
You see how close this was to being a different team's podcast?
Right. And then he went to the Panthers, and it made sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, I had a real connection with a team other than this new team that lived in I was just starting to watch football. So I think that means now a lot to me. Like, it would be hard to latch on to another team at this point. It is interesting when you choose your sports teams because, I'm a Cubs fan. And you think that I got a best story about how you choose a baseball a team to cheer for, is that as a kid, I was real tight with my grandfather. And he's passed away. He passed away when I was like 18 years old. But my mom, long story short, is that my mom was a single mother for a little while, and we were very tight with my grandparents, Italians, you know what I'm saying? And I was the first grandson, the first boy, all of it. So it was like a golden child. My grandfather was like in the world to me too. And I remember as a kid watching Cubs games on WGN with them. And we would always sit on the floor and we'd eat popcorn and watch games all the time. And I was just like, well, I'm a Cubs fan. My pops is a Cubs fan, right? And as I grew up earlier, he passed away. And I haven't been able, now thinking back in retrospect, the dude moved to Kinston, North Carolina in the 1970s from Queens, or he lived in Long Island before that. I think he just was a baseball fan. And turns out that he got stuck in Kinston, and all they had was WGN, so he's watching the Cubs all the time, and all of a sudden, I'm a Cubs fan because of it. That guy probably don't even like the Cubs. So interesting how you pick your teams. I think how you forge your relationship with your team would determine that a ton. Let's keep going right here. Just a couple more, I think.
C3 Podcast. What's up? Your boy, the YouTube champion, is back in the cat calls. My sincere apologies for missing the last 2 weeks. You know it's all love. I'm rectifying that today with
Thank you, buddy.
Another installment of Better Know a Potential Panthers draft pick. And this is inspired a little bit by Mel Mayock, something that I've been listening to him say in the podcast the past few weeks. And he's saying if Calvin Ridley is there at number 24, you have to take him. That's the guy. Him over everyone else. It's too great of a deal. So my pick is inspired by the same notion. If this player is there, we have to take him. And this week we are profiling Marcus Davenport, defensive end out of University of Texas, San Antonio. He is 6'6" tall, 264 pounds. He runs a 4.58, and he is a genetic freak of nature. And the way I look at it as Julius Peppers is probably going into his last year this year. We need the heir apparent, and who better than someone who has all the physical tools that Julius has. Now, he might not quite be on the level of a Julius Peppers, but imagine having a year to learn under the legend himself. Now, another thing I was watching was this Pro Football Focus podcast, and they were saying that even though Julius had 13 sacks last season, the amount of pressures that he was getting on a regular basis wasn't as high as you would like to see in the defensive end. That's why he's on rotation. He doesn't play as much. So that's my pick for the week, fellas. My question to you all, who do you take at number 24, no matter who else is available? If they are there, as soon as you see the name, you write it down, just send it in. Much love to you all. Much love to the YouTube chat. Love you, boys. Keep pounding.
All right, we'll talk about the name. We'll talk about it in detail more, but give me the name, Mel. One name there at 24. You're running to the podium.
Darius Geis.
Joe.
Dang, dude.
Was that your guy?
Yeah, dang, dude.
Dang, dude. Oh, dang, dude. My guy is going to be Ronnie Harrison.
Oh, you on the Ronnie Harrison train. I love it, man. You know how much I love him.
Like, that's kind of, I'm kind of just in need of a thumper and a guy that could be a big time addition to our to safety for 5 years. Like, I could use that in my life.
He was in Charlotte yesterday, brother. And he's got a lot of Josh Norman in him.
Joe, you got anybody?
I'm going to say Justin Reed.
Okay. Yeah.
Another great pick. Bring his brother in too, man. What a
I know that's on the high side, but if Harrison's gone,
what about Derwin? And the Derwin James is another one.
No doubt about it.
But he won't be there.
He'll be a top 10 pick.
Yeah. And hasn't he had some off the field issues?
I'm not 100% sure. All right, we got one last call. We got some DBs to talk about too. We still got more to go.
Okay.
All right, guys. I hope I get this on for tonight's episode, but if not, Professor, please put me on for next. This is JJ from Cairo. Just want to say that I was thinking about Cam's recent accident, and I realized that there's one commonality in both of these accidents he's had in his life. In both instances where Cam has been hit by another driver, neither of those drivers have received fines from the NFL office, which just proves the conspiracy that the NFL ain't going to find anybody who hits Cam. That's all I'm saying.
Great call. The way to end the show. I was thinking about this is that first, he did get an accident in Atlanta. You know that my secret, the one thing that would be kind of equivalent in my worldview is to the Panthers moving would be to Cam Newton playing in a Falcons jersey one day. That would kind of, that's the only thing that could ruin it for me with Cam Newton. Like, there's really nothing he can do where I'm not going to be a giant Cam Newton fan except for that. But he's living in Atlanta. He gets hit by a dump truck. It's okay. It seems like a minor fender bender. But my thought was this. If you were a Falcons fan and you knew it was Cam Newton, would you let off the gas once you knew you were going to hit him? Because my idea is that if I saw Matt Ryan or Julio Jones driving behind me, you damn sure I'm slamming on my brakes as hard as I can. Like, dear baby across the street, slam, and hoping that something is happening. I'm wondering, and I'm with you, I think you're onto something. I think the conspiracy, not only with the NFL, could be with Atlanta Falcon fans trying to run my Cam over with a dump truck. Stay away from it. All right.
Just because their defenders can't hit them. Just because their defense.
I know. It took a dump truck. It took a dump truck to stop Cam Newton. All right, guys, let's continue. I think I saw, I did want to, what do we got here? We've got this. We were going to talk about DBs tonight. And you guys can't see this. The people in the YouTube chat room can see it. And that is, I've got the top 10 corners. This is from CBS. I'm going to read the names off to you. This is cornerbacks. Josh Jackson, Iowa. He's been featured by Cody Lashney.
I love it.
Jair Alexander, Louisville. Denzel Ward, changing his name to Denzel Washington in Ohio State. Isaiah Oliver, Colorado. Holton Hill, Texas. Greg Stroman, Virginia Tech. MJ Stewart, Cameron Kelly, Mike Hughes, DJ Reed. I believe is Mike Hughes on the list of people we've met with? Does it sound?
Yes, definitely, yeah. And he's going right around our range. Him and Jair Alexander are two guys that really could be.
What, second round picks?
First round.
What?
Yes.
He's a junior. He's 5'11". He's 185 pounds. Joe, I'd be pissed if we took one of these corners at 24.
I think you feel like you're picking them a little on the high side.
I agree.
think you thrilled with them in the second round, but you're kind of like, picking them up in the first.
It's like the best that
It's
it's
just because you don't know them. It's just because you don't know them.
Yeah, you're right.
There's no. That's true. That's true. How much game tape have you watched of Mike Hughes or J.R. Alexander?
I'm gonna say
Right?
none, but I'm gonna say
Right.
none. But I'm gonna tell you this: the one thing is that like I don't believe, like if they're not in, we would have heard about them if they were better. Like I just feeling like this is I feel like what Joe is saying, and I feel he's capturing what I'm feeling here is that these guys. I'm not saying they're not good. Is that they're collectively this draft doesn't have a couple of guys that are just super studs in this category. And how about this? Let me ask you this. In comparison to last year's corners, how do these guys stack up, Mel?
Well, that's tough to say. I don't know. I mean, and honestly, that's not my favorite pick at 24 either. I'm just telling you, they are in the discussion. Now, you know where J.R. Alexander is
He's from Florida, is that right?
No, he's from Charlotte, baby. He's a local talent.
I mean, but did he play at Florida?
No, he played at Louisville.
Louisville, okay.
Yeah, but he is an athletic freak, and he's a hometown kid. He would be a great story, and they say he would fit right into our scheme extremely well. I mean, if you get a great corner that goes out there and starts for you for 10 years, it's a great pick. So we got to reserve judgment if they do go that way. To me, the biggest impact is going to be somebody like a Darius Geis or a Calvin Ridley or a DJ Moore, somebody like that. And then in the defensive back, because you've got two starting corners, right? And you've even got a little bit of depth behind there. You don't have two starting caliber safeties.
Lattimore was a top 10 pick last year, J-Dub. And wow, they didn't know he was going to be that fantastic. But here, right. Mel, let me ask you this. Here's the names: Marshawn Lattimore, Quincy Wilson, Tre'Davious White, Garyon Conley, Marlon Humphrey, Desmond King, Kevin King. Do you think that these guys are collectively better than that group? Which you might be. They might be, actually. Marshawn Lattimore, I think, though, is better than Josh Jackson, hands down. Coming out now.
No, I tend to agree. But, I mean, I would say these guys are probably right in there with, like, the Marlon Humphrey type.
They're a little shorter than I expected. All of them are 5'10", 5'11". The guys of the past have been a little bit longer, I feel like. What's the name other than the top two to look at? Who's this? Who on this list would be a good second round? Because the reason I don't like a corner here is that, like, I hate using a first round pick on a guy that's got some kind of some project in him still. Right, is that, and like that's how I feel with defensive ends with this bunch. Like if you're gonna get a defensive end at 24, it already takes them a long time. It's not that I'm gonna be upset. It's just like don't expect them to come in and really be lights out.
Well, if this makes you feel any better, Professor, if you look at the list of players that the Panthers have spent time with and worked out, brought into Charlotte, a lot of them have been these corners that are kind of mid-round type of draftees. So it really seems like they're going after what you're talking about. I mean, you got guys like Duke Dawson, who's a cornerback out of Florida, right, who probably would go in maybe the third round type of a range. So
let me throw two names out there that I like. What about Anthony Averett? He's Alabama cornerback. He is 6'3", and he ended up. This is one of the reasons I hate going through draft speculation so much, or I'm not really just super excited about just going through all these picks. This is the description that 24/7 Sports wrote about Anthony Averett. They say he could find himself being downgraded because of his lack of elite speed. And then he went to the combine and ran 4.4 and a 4.36. Right. So like, what do you mean? Where was the downgrade? Like, what's elite? Like, I mean, I feel like you guys are not you guys, but like these guys are just churning out these little blurps of 1,000 players off of just a couple of highlights. and you don't know that the guy has 4.4 speed.
I mean, that's pretty fast in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially at 6'3".
Yeah. So that's a guy that I'm kind of interested in. Anthony Averett. He's a little slight build. He's only 185 pounds, so he's a little skinny dude. But you know, you can bulk him up a little bit. That's some speed. That's fast enough. That's going to stick with him for another 10 pounds.
But you know, in our defensive scheme, typically, I mean, I always go back to like Josh Norman. He excelled better than any other corner in the history of the Panthers, in my opinion.
Nope, Chris Gamble, dude.
I don't know, dude. I mean, Josh Norman, I think for that 1 year at least, had a better year than Gamble ever did. Gamble was good. Gamble was right up there. But you take the quintessential Josh Norman, and you talk about defensive backs under Ron Rivera, the scheme that we run now. You don't have to be a trailblazer, right? I mean, 4.5 to 4.6 is good speed. You just need to be physical. You got to be able to come up and tackle. That'd be my only real concern with Averett would be 6'3", 185. Woo. You know,
yeah,
is he
is a little slim.
You know, so I mean, not to say he couldn't work, but there's a lot of other cornerbacks, and I tend to agree with you. I'm not hype about going for a corner at 24 unless the one from Iowa was there.
I wonder what was the most. How many picks did Norman have that year? The most picks that Gamble got was his second year, 7 picks.
But the thing about Gamble is, and I did like Gamble. Don't get me wrong, but he
that was Joey's guy.
He was a little bit like Deion Sanders in that he would not put his nose in there. He would not get up there and stop.
He wasn't a big fan of tackling.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
So what I this about Josh Norman was him. Not only was it his interceptions, but the timing of those interceptions.
And his overall attitude, his swagger.
Clutch.
Yes.
I mean, like game-saving picks.
Like that one against the Saints, dude, was like, I mean, that was the most. Yeah, you're right. They made that season. All right, I got one other name for you that I'm interested in. What about a J.C. Jackson, cornerback out of Maryland? The only knock on him is that he's a hair short, like 5'10", or 5'9", 5'9"-ish, 10-ish. But he also got in trouble. He was originally supposed to go to Florida. Got in trouble, and before when he was a redshirt freshman, was accused of him and some buddies doing an armed robbery of somebody. Was acquitted. Wow. Was acquitted, but was dismissed from the no longer with the football team. Then went to Maryland, put his supposedly workout warrior, and has kept his nose clean. Is that something that eliminates him entirely from the discussion?
I think you got to have some real due diligence there, right? I think your investigators have to tell you that answer.
Yep. See, look, the first thing, as I mentioned his name, Relly Rel says JC has off the field issues, right? So, all right. So I got some other names I want to throw out there, and that is strong safeties. Here are the top names: Derwin James, Ronnie Harrison, Deshaun Elliott, Jordan Whitehead, and Trey Matthews. This is by CBS Sports, I believe, where I got this list. Derwin James is pretty much he's a sophomore? Is that true? Holy cow. He is 6'3", 211 pounds. I heard this. Somebody was watching the film for him. They said they saw him play man coverage against like against speed receivers. They saw him get up and like blitz around the corner. They saw him play like in a linebacker position. They saw him play at like almost a stand-up defensive end on the play. So he does certainly seems to be like he won't be there. But this is my guy, Ronnie Harrison. Is he a first-round pick, Mel, or is he?
Yes. To me, he would be a fantastic pick. I've been on that train for a while now. Is he my top guy that I want? He's right up there. I would be very excited because he's physical. He has top-shelf athleticism, and he has that Josh Norman swagger that we've been missing since he's left. So I want some attitude. I want some swagger because I think I think the whole team feeds off of that and needs it. And I think it makes Cam Newton better. I think Cam Newton was better because Josh Norman was on the team. So I would love Ronnie Harrison now.
Tell me his weakness, Mel.
Ronnie Harrison?
Yeah.
He has been known to go fall for some ball fakes. He's very fast, but they say he doesn't always consistently play to his speed on the field. Sometimes he's a little over aggressive, but I think that these are all things that you can say. I mean, you read the profiles of any of these players, and they're going to say what I said about Deion Sanders. He's not a great tackler. Well, would you take Deion Sanders anyway? Heck yeah, you would.
Yeah.
So Ronnie Harrison has been known to get beat from time to time, but a little bit of a different scheme. Not to say that he wouldn't be great in Carolina, which I think he would. He has great size, great speed, great everything, great instincts.
All right, Joe, here, that's a great question. This is his strengths, according to NFL.com, possesses outstanding combination of size and speed, quick pedal, easy transition into deep, has good makeup speed, doesn't overly focus on routes, finds, reads quarterback, right? So he's a physical hitter with punishment as his default setting. You had me there. And here are his weaknesses, Joe. Gets antsy, too willing to overreact, will lose leverage with pursuit angles, and allows talented running backs opportunities to beat him back inside. I don't know if he allows them or if they're just talented. Needs to play under control and with better patience in the open field. Can fix that. Complex routes can bait him into jumping. That's asking a lot of coverage at a strong safety. Has necessary speed to play over the top, but doesn't always access it on a consistent basis like Mel. But here's a weird thing. I don't like this statement. I don't like whoever wrote this. And this anonymous NFL team executive. He's a feisty guy, quote, big and athletic, but he's not really the brains of the defense over there. He's not really that dude who runs the show. And I don't think he's going to be that kind of guy in the pros. He handles his work, though. Like, what kind of comment is that? You're on the Nick Saban team, dude. Like, nobody is the brains of the whole damn team but Nick Saban. And on the other side, you're playing beside Mika Fitzpatrick and on a team that has all pro players. How do you be the guy?
And he led the team in interceptions and in tackles, or led the team in tackles and was second in interceptions. So, come on. I mean, that's a lot like saying freaking Cam Newton has a fake smile.
Yeah. I think that this is the pick that I like the most. And just to finalize why I'm of that opinion is because I think you can talk about Ridley coming in and stepping in and how he could be a day one wide receiver. I might be able – I could buy that. I could get on board. I'll just trust you guys on that. But for some of the other picks is that and like cornerback, like what I was saying, is that are these guys going to really be an instant addition where they're strengthening the team, or are you going to have to continue to think about how they're going to get better? I think strong safety is a position that players can acclimate faster on the defense than defensive end and cornerback. Just kind of my theory.
But now, Tony, my only reason for being okay if we pass on Ronnie Harrison, which, believe me, I've been saying for over a month now, I'd love Ronnie Harrison. I'd love that pick. But this is a very deep safety draft. And you can get somebody a little bit later on. I mean,
that's a good point.
The Panthers have shown interest in Jesse Bates, which I think would be a great round 2 selection. You know, you could get that wide receiver or that running back or that defensive end in the first round and then come back and pick up a safety a little bit later.
That's an excellent point, and one, too, that I have mentioned in the past in a different light, so I'm kind of contradicting myself tonight, and that is that strong safety is something that's cheaper in free agency than some of these other positions. So you actually, if you want to save some money in the draft, you can go after positions maybe if you have the opportunity to get a wide receiver, a corner, an outside corner, or say like an offensive, what could be a left tackle. You actually save money in the long run. You can pay a guy like Cersei. So there are some cons to it. I just think this would probably be the one that I'd be like, you know what, this guy's going to be starting day one. It's going to be straight. And I feel good about it.
Him or Reed, I'd be excited about.
All right, so speaking of Reed, let's pull up the list. This is the list of I'm pulling up for the guys on YouTube, Mel. Here are the top 5. So we did 10 corners. We did 5 strong safeties. We'll do 5 free safeties. Minka Fitzpatrick, Alabama, is a junior, 6'1". He's top 10. Justin Reed, Stanford, 6'1", 202 pounds.
I think he could play either. But see, with the Panthers, I think you got to be able to play either.
And we really need a free more this year than anything. Like if you really wanted something this year. Quinn Blending, is that right? Or at Tavarius Moore and Armani Watts. Any names other than Justin Reed that stick out to you?
Well, Armani Watts is a player I like a lot too. I'm not sure where he's going. Probably late 3rd, 4th, somewhere in there. He'd be a very nice, solid pickup. He's a big hitter.
Any names? What do you think about Justin Reed? We may have lost Joe. Did we lose Joe? I wanted to ask a question to you, Mel, about Justin Reed. Now, one of the things that people remember last week, we talked about Eric Reed, his brother, getting blackballed. And I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about maybe we were just talking about in text messages, the impact of protest and this stuff on the NFL, the considerations by businesses when they bring in guys to this effect that have not necessarily concerns surrounding them. I'm actually a complete pro Eric Reed supporter and bringing him in. I don't see the problem. We've talked about this. We've argued this in our own ways, not like argued. But my question is this, is there really a difference? If you're not comfortable bringing in Eric Reed because of the distraction element, right? Because of the potential threat that it gives. Now, Eric Reed has also said that he will not be doing these protests in this coming year. Would you be comfortable bringing in his brother? Wouldn't not bring in the same level of distraction? What do you think on day one the first question to him will be?
Oh, I guarantee he's already been asked. And I guarantee you all of these players are being asked, what's your stance on the protest?
No, but what about this? He's got a special one. What do you think about your brother not being on a team? What do you think about your brother? Why isn't this?
Well,
how do you stand with your brother?
That's why you have agents. He's been coached up, I guarantee you.
I just feel like this is that if you're a team that seriously thinks that Eric Reed is a distraction enough just because of that picture and that of what with Colin Kaepernick, is that I don't really think you can be pro Justin Reed as your team drafting them. My sense is this, let's just bring in the Reed brothers. Go ahead. Both of them.
I would love to have both of them in Charlotte. That would take a weakness and make it a strength overnight. And there's a reason Reed's not signed right now, because you do give up some collateral if we pick him up in free agency right now. But after May 7th, we don't lose. And I'm not real sure of all those details. That's kind of something I've just read, and it made sense, but I didn't. I don't really fully understand that. But you wait until May 7th, you don't give up and lose any collateral. So that's probably after the draft is when you'll see Eric Reed get picked up. Hopefully.
Well, I hope it's by the Panthers. I really think. And, you've got Torrey Smith out there advocating hard. He hasn't just done it once. Yeah. Cody Lashney says, great conversation point has been, and Eric Reed has been, not Eric Reed, Justin Reed has been asked about his brother's protest, and there's video of it on YouTube. I just feel like the papers are going to run that story enough for long enough that it would be almost similar to what Eric Reed would bring in. All right, so that's kind of our initial discussion. Now, I would say, last question about these DBs, and then we'll just kind of kick it to the ice-up picks. Which DB position, actually, ideally, where do you see the Panthers going in the first round? Do you want them to go? Ideally, if best case scenario, best player on the board and position that helps the most, Who do you want it to be? Do you want it to be Ridley? Do you want it to be Josh Jackson, right? Justin Reed. Like, out of those players that we've talked about this in the so far, and who would you take? Ronnie Harrison, Calvin Ridley, Josh Jackson, or Justin Reed? They're all on the board. Who do you pick, Mel?
To me, out of that group, I take Calvin Ridley. The only one that I'm wanting and praying they fall that I would take over Ridley is Darius Geis.
Joe, you feel the same way about Ridley?
I do. I think if he's there, I think he's the guy to grab. I just feel that we need a safety so bad.
But you can come back and get a Bates in round 2, right? Just my thought.
Yeah,
Didn't mean to interrupt you. But.
I do understand what you're saying, but who would you rather have, Ridley or Bates?
Well, you would get both in that case.
Running back?
Oh, you mean who would you rather have over Ridley? Is that for me? I'm thinking that Justin Reed and Ronnie Harrison all make sense to me. I think Geis makes sense. I know Geis makes sense. That dude.
Yeah, I think safety is just such a big, glaring weakness.
Yeah.
We have to get that.
Ronnie Harrison's the pick, dude.
We need to fill it with the best possible player we can.
I think Ronnie Harrison's the pick. That's what I'm putting my money on for the moment. All right, guys, let's get in here and let's do these ice up picks. Actually, before we do that, let me thank everybody for participating in the chat. We've had a fantastic conversation tonight. We thank all the callers. We had a really good night of calls tonight. The number for you guys to jump in on that in the future is 252-228-5098. While you're here, go ahead and smash the thumbs up button on YouTube. Like us on Facebook, retweet us on Periscope, and join the conversation at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Remember, send this podcast to one friend. Our goal is to get to 1,000 by the draft. Help us get there. We've got 60 follows since we started this campaign. We're a third of the way there. So let's keep going, folks. Help us get that. The number's 252-228-5098 to get on that Cat Calls line all the time. And this is where we now do the longest running segment of the show, where we tell anybody in the world is fair game to ice up, to toughen up. It's our homage to Steve Smith. And Joe, would you like, because you're the only one with an image tonight, would you like to go first?
Yeah, that's fine. Let me say that when you asked me about pick 24, did I say Ridley?
Yes.
I meant Ronnie Harrison.
Okay.
He's there. That's the guy I want because of the giant hole at safety that we have.
I feel the same way.
All right. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going first at all. This, let me know when you have the.
It's up.
All right. Oh my God, there were so many things I saw tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of good good candidates for ice up this week.
Yeah, man having sex with a chicken.
Oh, wow.
A woman get arrested for intercourse with her adult son. I saw a woman ran her car into a food truck. It was like a chicken truck. And the police, asked her why she did it. And she said because she was a vegan.
I thought she was rushing to have sex with that chicken like her friend.
I picked this one because
dear Lord.
People are stupid.
Yeah, they are.
People are just dumb. And my man here, Mac Yearwood, 42 years old, is an idiot.
I'm just like...
Now, if he beat out the ones you've already said, he's got to be way up there. So let's hear it.
I guess, he was wanting to update his profile picture on Facebook. So he was looking for, I guess, a nice looking picture, a picture that puts him in a good light, that maybe makes him think, oh, this is a good picture of me. So he uses his wanted poster from the police. Yeah, that's right. He's wanted by the police on criminal charges.
Don't you know your data's leaked?
So he decides, I don't know if he had to have been under the influence of something, because no human can be this dumb and be a normal functioning human. This is the epitome of stupid. So he put his picture up on Facebook, and one of his relatives commented on his picture, his updated profile pic, and said, I really wish he would take this picture down because the police use Facebook too. And so
did she at the Citrus County Sheriff Office?
Yeah. Suffice it to say, it was only a matter of hours before the police were able to track down Mr. Yearwood, because in addition to having his picture, his wanted poster there, he also managed to put his address down on his account.
I thought you were going to say he put this up on Tinder.
So he quickly was hauled in, and they threw the book at him. So when you're having a bad day and you feel like you made a mistake and it was something stupid, just think about Mr. Yearwood, and you'll find yourself giving yourself a pat on the back.
So what do you need to tell him to do, Joe?
So Mr. Yearwood, my man, you need to go and ice yourself up, son.
All right, I got one last question about this whole discussion. Was for me is the guy that had sex with a chicken, right? That's bestiality. And
at least it wasn't a rooster.
That's like homo bestiality. And I don't know if that. But my question is this: if this vegan woman was rushing to replicate this same act, but it was at a food truck and the chickens are dead, does that make her a chicken necrophiliac? And would that mean you are a necrochickliac? Sorry.
Deep thoughts about Tony.
Gosh. All right.
Holy cow.
You dead chicken. And is that worse than a live chicken? I think they're both equally worthy of icing up like this guy. All right, Mel, who you got?
All right. Well, hey, there's been lots of candidates, like Joe said. You know, the ones that came to mind are things like NFL Network top 10 celebrations and the dab not being in the top 10. That was up there, but that's not going to be the one I go. Clickbaiting, way up there. But where I'm going with this is somewhere where I can totally relate. I've been there. If any of you guys play golf, you've been there. Did you get a chance to watch the Masters?
No, but I kind of followed it on social media.
The absolute, and see, I've got a history of laughing at golfers because I can relate. It's not because I'm looking down my nose.
Oh, is this the guy that dislocated his ankle?
No, which he
was crazy.
Mad. Boy, he just took his ankle and popped it right back in and kept on playing. So you know that's a dab of the week. Dab on them. Dab on them folks.
Yeah, damn truth.
But no, this happened to be to the defending champion of the Masters from last year. He won the Masters. This year he comes in, he gets the hole 15, and he's right in the mix. The par 5. This is his third shot coming in. It hits right up by the flag, rolls down into the water. Okay, throws another ball down, hits it up right by the flag, rolls down into the water. Okay, take a third shot. Bam, right up by the flag, rolls down into the water.
This is like, what was that movie with Kevin Costner where he kept doing?
Tin Cup. Yeah, this was a Tin Cup moment.
Yeah, it is.
He did that 5 times, Tony. 5 times.
Poor guy.
The ball went into the water. So he shot on a par
Joe, what are you
5.
doing? Sanding something? Sounds like you got sandpaper. All right, go. Sorry.
he shot a 13 on a par 5. So immediately the defending champ, Sergio Garcia, is out of this year's race. So I could so relate. I've had that moment.
That was Sergio?
That was Sergio Garcia.
Oh, man. A very controversial golfer in general.
Man, he put up a snowman?
No, he put no. He put up a 13.
What's a snowman?
An 8. So he did a snowman over par. He did an 8 over par on one hole. So I mean,
my God.
Oh, that's yeah. You know what? Is that me and Sergio got something in common?
Is that a record?
That tied. That's a good question. He tied the all-time record for the highest score on one hole at the Masters.
Wow.
So you go from champ.
A good record to have.
No, it's not. So Sergio, my boy, I can relate, but you got to go ice up on that.
Absolutely. Great call.
Yeah. My ice up pick goes to the United States Senate today in their their questioning of Mark Zuckerberg over terms of service, Facebook data. First of all, I cannot imagine a universe or a world or a space where a billionaire nerd who resembles slightly, looks so uncomfortable at being human. Somebody put up this like this idea about him drinking water, and it looked so weird that it was like remember, it was like an alien, they said, and they were
Marco Rubio was like, thanks.
act like a human, drink water, right? Like this. But so I can't imagine a world where a billionaire nerd looks more in touch with America than the people they elect. And like the senators, I don't even care. And this is not a left and right, even though the right ones were really going after like how Facebook is slanted and all this. Like they really made it not about your data, but like how they're targeting right commentary. That was what Cruz did. But the idea that like, it felt like I was trying to teach an old person or talk with an old person about the cloud. Right? Is like, we don't save data on your computer anymore. We save it in the cloud. What's a cloud? You know, like that's how I felt. And they kept going. And really, the whole thing is just so farcical to me. If you put your crap on the internet, your stuff on the internet, I hope you know that like it's on the internet. Like if you got something private, don't put it on the internet. Number one, right? And number two, like social media is all about sharing your information. Like that's all it's about. So like you better get in the habit, users, of just adopting that. Like if you want to be private social media person, you're not a social media person. So you should assume that all these companies are watching, monitoring, counting beans and all of that and sharing it with potentially anybody. But it seems like Facebook is rather genuinely committed to some certain principles that I actually feel pretty comfortable with at this point. But they were going on and they kept saying weird stuff to them. Like one of the questions was just like they didn't understand how data is used, just period, to advertise to you. Like they really just had a panel of stuff. And anytime he tried to talk, they'd be like, we're on a time limit. Yes or no answer. And they were asking him, so it was really this funky line of question, I thought. And then this other thing that drove me bonkers in this whole discussion was how Facebook's terms of service is not manageable, right? Is that like nobody can understand that. So they just click yes, and they don't really know what they're getting into. Number one, I would point out that y'all suckers did not say that about credit cards until a damn financial collapse happened. And still, you guys fought that, like simplifying the terms of that, but you're calling Facebook out for their terms of service being too complicated for the average person. The second thing about that is Y'all in government and lawyer asses are the ones that have made it so terms of services have to be so damn complicated in the first place. Because you're the ones that allow our legal system and justice system to benefit people that can sue, that can manipulate a system. So the idea that you're calling for Facebook to be like, we need a simple term of service on every exercise you do that the average American can decide about is just a crock of shit, because you don't care about it with credit cards. You don't care about it with anything. You're making this big stink over something. You don't even understand how they sell data or use their data right now. And then you're going to take this conversation into the space of, is social media good for us? Like, they were asking him about, like, when is this bad, like kids being on it too much or people being on it too much and this and that. Like, it's not the forum for us at this moment to just be waxing over whether this is good for society or not. It's just so weird. I think I don't get it. And you know what? Nobody deleted their Facebook account. So America doesn't care. And you know what? You want to fight this fake ad stuff? You just have a brain and you research and you look at stuff instead of just reading a headline and then like being a sheep. So to you, the United States Senate, and all your idiocy about what data is. One guy said this: if I own it, I know if somebody's taking it. That's not true. If you own something on your computer, people could take it and you would have no idea. So shut up, ice up to you, and please, CIA, follow us on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Leak our data, specifically this podcast, to people all around the world. That's what I say.
And hit the subscribe button.
And hit the subscribe button, right? And don't let billionaires be more in touch with the average American. That's not a good look. Not a good look. All right. It's the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. My name's Tony Dunn. Every week, Tuesday night, 9 p.m., we chop it up. We thought tonight was going to be on time. Quick. Where we know? It's 10:30, Mel. Mel, how can they find you? I know you don't have much time before you fall asleep on air.
Yeah, man. I had 2 cups of coffee, so I'm doing good. Hey, you follow me anytime on Twitter at Panthers Drafter. Hey, check me out tomorrow night. And I'll put it out on Twitter, but I'm going to be a guest on ESPN Radio down in Texas talking draft on behalf of Draft Tech. And there's a new draft, mock draft, coming out every Wednesday between now and the draft, which is just 2 weeks away. So a new mock draft coming out tomorrow.
Joe, they this radio station in Dallas thinks they got Mike Mayock on the line. Turns out they got Mel Mayock on the line. Joe, I think we got the better version with Mel Mayock. Joe Riolano, you're the best. How can they follow you this week?
Hey guys, follow me on Twitter at Joe Riolano.
Simple, sweet. Keep pounding, folks. We'll see you next week.